Over and over again, we as men are asked to forgive. We're asked to learn forgiveness because we're not dealing with some sort of male pain in the right way. And it's a consistent thread around the culture, and we can all buy into it. Forgiveness sounds good. It's a noble thing. It's something which we all can agree upon is great. And it's one of these things like love or honor or nobility or strength that everybody can agree is the good thing, a right thing. But then we're just supposed to decide it, think it. And I want to talk about this because when it comes down to forgiveness in some of men's problems, like divorce and custody, which inspired this, we are sending men a terrible message. And in fact, we're sending men a terrible message where we're creating more pain from that. When we offer a solution that is impossible to get, or we don't know how to lead somebody how to get to that. And then what happens? What happens to a man that tries to seek an answer over and over and over again and still fails? That man goes deeper into self-hatred, deeper into depression, thoughts of social alienation, antagonization. This is how we've created the male terrorist. So this is something that comes up in a lot of the different things that I've been writing lately about male pain. And when we get into things like PTSD, when we get into things like trauma, when we get into things like abuse that happens to males, which isn't supposed to exist, and just male frustration in general, we're given this idea that there's an answer, there's a solution. We cannot be toxic about it. And if we don't do that, we're then socially alienated, we're bad. Or if we try and do what society tells us to do, which is usually PC culture or some feminist influence thing, if we can't make that work, then we are a toxic male. We're buying into something that is terrible. Now, I just want to tell you this. I don't subscribe to the red pill. I don't subscribe to hating feminism. I don't subscribe to any of these things because I think they're lower thoughts of humanity. When we move into reactive thinking, we're failing. So yes, there are problems with feminism. There are things that are right in the red pill. But when we just side with one of those polarities or whatever the polarity is, we really make it so it's impossible for us to get to wisdom and thought. Invention, creation are some of the greatest aspects of humanity, and we need to understand that. But in this video, I'm not actually going to get into the nitty-gritty of that just because it's such a deep thing and it's such a complicated thing to really discuss. What I want to talk about is what was written to me, which was just so brutal. In Divorce and Custody, the Survival Guide for Men, if you're going through this, you should really do it. It will help win your case. It will save you thousands of dollars. It's just so helpful. But one of the exercises is to write the story of your relationship. It's also highly therapeutic, which is what was so important for this gentleman. And he wrote out his story and he talked about what he did as a husband, what he did for her, what he did to do everything right. And when she started having problems, how he tried to change for her, all while maintaining his strength. This is a very strong and inventive and amazing individual. When there were complications with health, when there were deaths in the family, when he became a father and they became parents, what he did to step it up, and also what she may have tried to do as well to step it up. But in this whole thing, conflict comes up, as we all know who are parents. And part of these conflicts come up in communication. And in this situation, this guy really did everything that he could, therapy, tried to go to group therapy and so on, but it just wasn't working. It just kept coming back to him. And through that, he tried to change. Now, one of the problems that I have with a lot of the men's advice out there is this, oh, that's a weak man. That's how you get destroyed. That's how you don't keep a woman and you're not badass enough. There was nothing not badass about this guy. There was nothing. And then if he were to go take steroids and get buff, what are you playing to? You're playing to a superficial culture. You're actually helping create this narcissistic BS crap that we say is what's important. But what he did right was everything right to raise a child, everything right to give love to his wife, everything right to support her in whatever ways. I get it that when men get duped in their relationships, they feel that, they need to attack this somehow, or, oh, we didn't get it. We didn't get the memo that we just need to get 6 inches taller and be more alpha or whatever. This dude is plenty alpha in the sense that he's a leader, he's a provider, he's, what you would call an eagle in every sense of the success ring. And actually what he told me was, if my soon-to-be ex-wife was so effed up that she didn't work on herself, that she made herself repellent to me and she had to go seek relationships outside the marriage, That's on her. She can go F herself. And I'm ready to walk through the pain. I'm ready to move on, and I'm ready to rebuild my life. I wish more men thought this way. And let's actually go back to what this video was about, which is about forgiveness in this weird, crazy thing that we go through as men in our cultures. We're told that we have to forgive. And one of the things that I was talking about with him was that, man, you don't need to forgive this right now. That is not your priority. Your priority is to win your case. Priority is to do what's best for your son. Your priority is to do that in the best possible way, while maintaining mental health, mental sanity, while also keeping her in check and getting away from her manipulation and so on. And as I read through his story, his story of his entire relationship, you look at that and you go, how can you forgive that? What are we telling men? And the story that he told is the story that we hear over and over by men in our modern culture. They were betrayed, they were gaslit, they did it over and over again. They were leveraged for their higher idea of wanting to hold on to a marriage for the benefit of their family, to do the best thing for their sons or daughters. And all of that, a woman lied and refused to work on herself. In that entire thing, what did she do? She leveraged feminism. I'm in pain, I'm in trauma, you need to do this better for me. I got caught cheating because I didn't have the comfort there. I was forced to do it. And of course, things like the red pill love eating this up and saying like, man, we need to hate women, we need to hate society, we need to change it, we need to do all these things. But the problem with that is that, once again, it's an incomplete thought. We don't look into things enough. And again, probably a topic for another video. This for me is quite a big topic because what I've done for the last 17, 18 years of my life is work with men who have hardcore trauma, really bad pain. And a lot of that comes out of divorce and custody. I work with men who are drug addicts. I work with men who are abused. I work with men who have been wards of the state. I work with men who have some of the problems that we throw away in our culture and don't want to talk about. And when they hear over and over again, you just have to forgive. Like, man, you need to get away from that. You need to understand that, you need to let her go. It's none of your business. Man, fuck that. When you look at this situation where somebody gave years of his life, and let me just tell you the average, it's 7 years and his was longer than that. Give that to a woman, giving her the benefit of the doubt, and you get screwed over. You realize you were lied to. You held on to what your idea of being a good husband was, but you just got betrayed and screwed over and over again. You were lied to. You took the benefit of the doubt, and you're supposed to find forgiveness like that. You're supposed to find the answer to your pain from somebody who can't comprehend that pain. And man, this is one of the worst things anybody can hear in terms of self-help and advice. So I want to talk to you a little bit about forgiveness, at least how I know it, and have worked with men who have had tremendous amounts of pain with this. Forgiveness doesn't follow a timeline of social media. It doesn't follow a timeline of fake morality. Forgiveness follows a timeline of you processing through your pain. You're going to have to look at it. You're going to have to walk through it. This is one of the most important things that you need to understand. You can't deny it. You can't frame yourself out of it. You can't bypass it by getting successful in some other form of your life. You're going to have to walk through it. Now, in tandem of walking through it, yes, you can get successful in other things. You can get relief in coping, but not complete bypassing from other forms of success. You can reframe it to cope with it, and you can distract yourself from it. And I would actually encourage you to do that. But you need to be in an ecosystem of strong men that can do that. Now, I have a little bit of a different definition of what a strong man is as opposed to the rest of the world out there. But I'm going to say this, they haven't coached as much as I have. They haven't worked with men as much as I have. They haven't gone through as much pain as I have and gotten to a point of success. And they haven't taken just thousands of men through that similar pain. And I can tell you what that's like. It is 100% okay for you to hate the person who has done wrong to you. But it is not okay and illegal for you to take action on that. Well, in certain ways, it's illegal. It is 100% okay to think about killing people, suicide, all these horrific things, but it is not okay to do that. And I really want that to be clear because so many men, come on my calls and they go like, man, I can't believe I could talk about this stuff. And sometimes guys talk about this stuff. Of course, we don't encourage people to do it. We encourage therapy, mental health, all that sort of stuff. And we have tons of resources for you to plug into that. But these things are natural thoughts. It's 100% okay to be hateful and angry towards this person for a long period of time. But once again, it's not okay to act on it. The sad thing is the way our culture is set up, there's nothing for men to actually walk through any of this pain or sort through it. And so unfortunately, people either repress it and it comes out somewhere else, or they're forced to act on it because they don't know where else to go. They only have a culture which tells them, oh, you just need to forgive. You need to get over it. You need to work through this stuff. You need to get in touch with your feminine. And I get it that sometimes that can work for some people, but when it doesn't work, what's the answer? The answer is you didn't do it good enough. You've bought too much into toxic masculinity. You just need to be a man and learn how to feel in the way that PC or feminist culture tells you you're supposed to feel, and not how actually men do feel when they're going through pain. And then we're left with that same problem that I talked about before. You create a new problem. You create more pain. You create terrorism from males. You create somebody who distrusts and hates our culture. So I want to tell you this, if you're watching this and you can't forgive. I would highly encourage you to come and join our groups. If you look at the Rising Man for divorced men, this is perfect for you. It will help you with your case. If you're already past your case, we'll help you with rebuilding your life, but we'll give you a support system that you've probably never heard before. If you're a man that isn't going through divorce, you can also join the Rising Man, which we have a different program that emphasizes less on the divorce and custody side and looking at the rebuild. But if those things aren't for you, you've got to get into a support system. And it's a specific support system. It's not your family. It's not your friends. It's not the yes men in your life, but it's people who have been there and done that and gotten to the other side. Oftentimes, these can be spiritual communities, but they can also just be a support group for men that doesn't have an underlying spiritual connotation, much like my group. You can be whatever you want, you can believe whatever you want, you can be in whatever political system you want, and you can be a part of my group. And it's existed for 14 or 15 years at this point. This is really important. You need people around you who have gotten to the other side and that you can have faith in that process. The sad part of that is it's not going to be your image of some superhero person. If you get some support system that is just based on image alone, they haven't done the internal work, and that is super important for all of this. This brings me to the next thing that you're going to have to do. You're going to have to take a look at where this pain comes from, and that's brutal, man. When you go through things like betrayal or common things that vets have where there's extreme violence, or maybe they did extreme violence and there's this huge pain that comes with it. To walk through that, you usually need some assistance, which is also why you need a support group that lives in reality and doesn't just say like, I beat this and I'm over it and now it no longer exists within me. You need to be a part of men who have walked that full path. And as we're probably going to talk about more on these videos and so on, that masculinity has never had a shortage of this. I know that Stoicism is really popular in our society and we love talking about it and so on, but there aren't many people that actually have lived that Stoic life. We have people that write about it. We have people that consolidate the different information that Stoics have done. We have people talk about the philosophy, but we don't talk about what Marcus Aurelius really did in becoming the man that shaped that thought. We need to start realizing that the gift of thought, the gift of masculinity, the gift of these great things that were created can't just be thought, read, and then chosen to do. We actually have to work them, and they take our entire life to work. This is a massive, massive endeavor. When we get into that endeavor, it's almost impossible to describe to you, but it is one of the most liberating, beautiful, amazing things. And this is why so many people stay within our groups, because this is what we do. If you get past the hard stuff, if you work through the hard stuff, you're going to see that all of life gets much, much better. Now, I'm going to wrap this video up now, but before I do, I want to say this. Forgiveness is a virtue of culture, of this amazing thing that we created as men, as human beings, in creating society, thoughts, philosophy, ways of life, all the things that you have within you that are urges to be fulfilled. And because of that, it doesn't come easy, and it shouldn't. This doesn't mean that you get to hate, you get to resent, you get to do all these things. Yes, it's true. If you're resentful of somebody, yeah, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It will only harm you. But you have to be walked through it. You're starting in that place, and you're supposed to start there. You're starting in a place of hate, disgust, sickness, all of these different things. And they're normal in this situation, but they're abnormal for somebody who's not going through a huge amount of stress. I encourage you, men, Get the help you need. What happens with me and how I teach is a completely different philosophy. If you're coming in through divorce and custody, we're going to help you win your case. This whole idea that you can't win as men in modern culture, man, I get it. The court systems are flawed. They are against you, but you can. You need to learn how to organize. You need to learn how to do things right. This is one of the past obsessions of mine for the last 4 years because, as you may have known, I lost my kids in 2012, and then I won everything you could imagine you could win in 2019. And since then, I've just helped thousands of men with their court cases and helped them win. In addition to that, we've done somewhat of the impossible, and I don't want to guarantee this because this is one of the impossibles, but being able to reverse a protective order, that is one of the hardest things that can ever happen, to basically say that a judge signed off on something and was wrong. We've had men go into court, do that whole nauseating, ridiculous process, and you want to talk about unfairness and get those things reversed. That is crazy. But in addition to that, we help men rebuild their lives to become better men, and we seek higher thought. We seek a higher way. None of us are perfect. I don't ever want to fit the fantasy image of what the false masculine is selling to the masses of men who are just in pain and wanting to buy anything. We are doing something very real. We do it in community. There are hours and hours of calls every week. You don't have to be on all of them. There are resources for you to work on. And if you do the work, you're going to become a great man. In any case, gentlemen, I'm going to sign off. And if you're going through this, just know forgiveness is a righteous path, but it is a long one. And it's one which is going to challenge every single bit of yourself. It's okay to feel what you're feeling. It's not all right to act. If you do act, man, let's learn how to amend those things and walk a higher path as men.